we tend to operate in extremes.
Yeah, it's been a week of extremes. I think extreme reactions and just this idea that who you are is the most recent game you played, not the culmination of the work that you've, and or the tape that you've put out on the year. It's you are who your most recent game is, and you're kind of seeing uh, people that react just again off individual games, which it's just kind of part of the landscape.
Mm. Yeah, not necessarily my favorite part of the landscape, but I do.
You and your
Well, I like to think about things,
mm,
Uh, Tim,
mm.
you just Max, I was mean to you this morning.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just gotta check sometimes. Tim, I do one.
Couple of kids over here, Tim. Couple of kids.
I do wonder how you balance that personally when you're looking at what was. I mean, there's no denying a very, very bad performance against Minnesota versus what you've seen over the rest of the season because it's really easy in my mind to be like, okay, they have 6 performances that I thought they played reasonably well, or at least there were plenty of positives to take from all those. You have one performance where there's 0 positives basically to take from. Like, how do you balance that to figure out what you think you're going to see moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, like when there was a game like this last year, the Indiana game last year, where like I essentially just tossed all of that game, where I was like, okay, I mean, Nebraska had a bad game plan, they came out flat, and they just never got up off the mat. This felt similar, and like for me personally, once Elijah Pritchett and Rocco Spindler left the game, you toss everything else out. You already have you already have like a not great game plan going in. You lose two starting offensive linemen. What's going to go well? Like what did you expect was going to happen? But anyone that's analyzing anything post Spindler and Pritchett and seriously looking at that and saying, well, the offense is flawed for this reason. Well, the offensive line is missing two starting tackles. Like you start there and the conversation starts there, and we really don't need to go beyond that. Like specifically, the best offensive lineman in Rocco Spindler is missing. So I kind of just junked most of the game. I think there's obviously areas of concern and like bigger pick like things that popped up again, the run game. And I thought you guys really got into it well yesterday with MRI yesterday on what are the actual issues there and what can be fixed. But I think the defensive run game issues are something. I really thought Nebraska had started to turn a corner offensively in terms of figuring out that balance and how to pair the pass with the run, how to feed everyone equally and make everyone happy and get into a flow of the game. And they just never got into a flow of the game on Friday. And so that's where I kind of think the issues stem. And yeah, I mean, obviously there are issues I think this program is going to have to address in the offseason to again take the next jump forward. But my season prediction had Nebraska going 9-3 and losing to Michigan and losing to Minnesota, and they're 5-2 at this point in the schedule. They're still, as far as I'm concerned, they are still on track to go 9-3. Now, the third loss was Penn State, and I don't think that's how. We'll see how that game goes versus what that third loss ends up being, or potentially fourth losses ends up being. But I just don't believe when you zoom out and look at the course of the season, you see Nebraska go 8-4, 9-3 with this team. I don't think by the end of the year most people will be disappointed.
TV, how have you assessed, and is it the same or kind of different than you as an individual? Generally speaking, do you think the media has kind of learned to take in and process the transparency from Coach Rule yet? I get like Butler and Coach Holgerson will be relatively new when they have moments of transparency. But do you think we in the media, and I'll get to the fan base maybe, but do you think we've learned to perceive it?
I think it's still evolving. I think something I've noticed is a lot of the very vocal, specifically on social media, the very social media vocal members of the fan base that do pay attention to things are encouraging a lot of other fans to watch the press conferences and not just listen to media. Because I mean, there is some of that in this market, where there is some of like, pick and choosing quotes and trying to frame things a specific way based on what a coach says. Well, no, if you listen to the entire context of the quote, like for example, this week, I think there's been a lot of running away from various people with what Butler said about the flow of the game and him personally, what he did after the 71-yard run. I think we forget that as much as these are developing players too, these are developing coaches as well. And I thought that was a moment of transparency from Butler, and that's not something to be concerned about. It's okay, well, it's good to know that the guy that it has NFL experience and has coordinated at a high level and does, for the most part, know what he's talking about, does still have moments where he can learn and is recognizing those moments and learning from them. A guy with Butler's experience could easily have been like, well, it's on the players to execute. It's on that. No, he owned up in that moment and said, well, I coached the game different. And I think that should be something that generally encourages people more than discourages people. But I've seen people take that and use that as something that, for whatever reason, they are now concerned with this defense moving forward. And again, like, I think there are issues with this defense. I think there are things they need, but they are working within the personnel. And again, like you guys said yesterday, for the most part, they are genuinely scheming things up well. It's guys have to make plays. Like, when you can count on a defense having some younger guys making mistakes. But when the veterans are also making mistakes, there's not one thing you can point to. You can't say, well, this guy's not executing, this guy's executing, we have to get this guy up. Well, if they have veterans and like it just at some point, like you guys talked about yesterday, and why it can be very frustrating for coaches and people trying to explain this to people is at the end of the day, it is just guys have to make plays. Like that's just what it kind of comes down to.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, if you're not mastering, because a lot of it is just discipline, in
Right.
my opinion, like base fundamentals. And if that gets away from you in the heat of the moment, I just think you're going to naturally be a little gun shy to ask people to try to do more, right? If you can't master again, if you're strong side A gap guy and you try to backdoor that thing, or you can't play a reach block, like, you're gonna be a little less hesitant to be eccentric. So and it's happened to me, right, where it's like, we just last night, like, we're not getting home on some blitzes, so you're less apt to call them if you're not getting home, right?
Yeah, if you're not getting the benefit of the call, you don't want to take the risk of it.
So I think for these guys, Tim, do you double down on the process and keep tinkering with new guys? Do you do you tweak the process and stay with the same guys? Is it positional? Like, how do you think they'll look at it to get ready for Northwestern, a team that's pretty adept at running the rock?
I mean, I think you just, especially with what you're facing a team that knows who they are offensively, and you know what you're going to get out of them, and you kind of know the matchups. And again, like with Minnesota, I do feel like this is generally a team where Nebraska can win one-on-one matchups. They just have to kind of do it. So, yeah, I mean, I think you double down in this situation. Like, I think this is the type of opponent, and coming off the game that you had, you do double down because, again, I do think there's a belief within the locker room and within this defensive staff that this group is progressing and development isn't always linear. But over the course from what we saw from game one to through Michigan State, I thought you saw progression, and then it all came crashing back to earth. It fell back to earth a little bit against Maryland, of course, and then really came crashing down to earth last week. So, yeah, again, this is a defense that has had promising moments and developed, but yeah, I don't think you throw away the development and the growth of the unit that they've had together over one game. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that's going to be asked of guys. I think you're going to see a similar tight leash on specific individuals in the back seven in particular, of like, hey, if this isn't happening again this week, like, we've got guys that will make those plays or will at least try, and will put themselves in position to like make those plays.
If rank these in order of operations, because I think I was a little more taken aback by the offense than the defense, even with the offensive line injuries. By the way, Spindler even being back at practice.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
I
good on that guy.
Sunday morning I texted Steve. I was like, oh, should we get our Rocco's probably potentially out for multiple
I
games?
mean, that
No,
thing was
no.
like that was compound.
Yeah.
Like, he jumped into the tunnel. Like, anyway, and if Shavers tried to play and that hurt too much, like, it's gonna be fascinating. But anyway, would you start with physical run game, EJ touches, limit check with me's or RPOs, or quick game? Quick game, limiting RPOs, physical run game, EJ touches.
Ooh.
Slot those in order for me for this offense this week.
I feel like the very simple thing is EJ touches. Like, I just think like that's just something
EJ
that's like,
touches one.
yep. Yeah, and then yeah, like I think limiting, like, no, I mean, like, because I think one goes in hand with the other. More EJ touches also means like limiting the like RPOs where Dylan's like throw and just hand it off. Just get Emmett the ball, give him an opportunity to carry the ball, get him an opportunity to get comfortable. And then yeah, quick game, like again, like get to that. But like I just think from what we've seen from this team so far, for whatever reason, they haven't gotten into the flow of like a good, like a consistent quick game. Like they found the screens, but they haven't found like really much beyond that. Even like last week, like again, I saw people in the last 2 weeks being like, "Run mesh, why aren't they running mesh?" They're trying. It's not. It's covered up. It's
Yeah,
like
and
they're.
yeah, you can see that. I thought Collins was pretty smart. I said
Yeah,
that before the
yeah.
game. I'm saying it even more after. Their pre-post, whether he was playing two man or that inverted cover, like they're pretty good with their disguises because
Yeah,
they're not
absolutely.
elite. They they're pretty good with what he wanted to do.
Yeah, and they try like that's a defense that like again, they know who they are, but also like against a team like and they are one of those unique kind of like middle to the they're not a top tier contender in the Big Ten, but they're one of those teams that typically has the secondary talent. They do this year to like keep up with most anybody in the conference. Like they can stick in coverage against most anyone in the
And
conference.
they
They
were
trust
missing
those
some
guys.
fellas too.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's again, it's just it's assignment stuff, but like yeah, the quick game stuff just hasn't been there. So that's why I put it lower, just because I don't think that's something that they're gonna suddenly find. But again, like I think it just comes down to
Well,
one
what
getting
what
each
what
of
would
the
you call Cincinnati? Just checkdowns, not necessarily quick game.
I would say those are more, yeah, because it's coming back to that. Like I think there's built in obviously some of that for Dylan. The part of this is I don't know how much Dylan's going to that like compared to what he was early in the season. Like it does, and part of that I think flow of the game matters too against both Maryland and Minnesota. But there were times where I felt like okay, well he's not looking underneath really at all. Like he's not really assessing the check down options there. So that's part of it. I think this is just like an offensive operation right now that when it's working, it really like it's efficient, it's smooth, and they're getting chunk plays off of everything. Like it's not one thing in particular, but like they're able to just create chunks. And right now, like but the problem is they don't have a bread and butter where it's like okay, well we really need something. This is what we turn to. It's because they can attack in so many different ways, and when it's working, so many different things work. They don't have a specific thing of like okay, we're in trouble. We need to lean on this.
It's crazy how to start the third quarter when it was 7-6, they go run, and they get the screen to EJ. You're moving, you take the shot play to Key, you don't get it. The next play is a sack, the next play is a sack, drive over. You punt
Yeah.
that thing, it gets down to the 2, they go 17-98 on you, and you're thinking, oh my God, the game's over. Like, it never boils down to just a couple of plays, but that series was a microcosm of what not only they're capable of, but how fine a fine line it is that sometimes these guys need to function. Right? That drive started out really, really well. And
Yeah.
if maybe you don't take the shot on first the shot to Key, I didn't mind it, even though Emmett was getting his deals. But then you go sack, and it's like you're demoralized as opposed to, man, we could get back to that. But
It
after
feels
you
like a
get
turnover. Like it feels like a turnover.
kind of,
Like
well,
honestly.
they acted like it was.
Yeah.
So you have options emotionally as a team. I would look at that drive and I would tell our guy, I would be like, hey, look, fellas, like, come on now.
We were gashing them.
Let hang in there.
Yeah.
But the 17-98 with the pimp, like, I don't know, man. You need a little more seasoning of
Yeah.
golf. You just need a little more emotional seasoning for some of these guys. And that's
Right.
okay. That'll come with experience.
Yeah, and part of this too, like you mentioned emotional seasoning, like I'm glad the players mentioned it because it confirmed something for me. Coming out of that game, it felt like Nebraska walked into that game with this game plan of, okay, we are the more talented team. We can throw it on these guys. Like we think we could throw it on these guys. We're going to have chunk plays available for us and we can keep up and we're going to be able to score points. And that sequence right there where you miss the deep shot, you get sacked twice, and then they run it down your throat 98, for 98 yards, all of a sudden you're looking around and you're saying, oh, well, we didn't sign up for this. We thought we were going to be able to, we thought we were going to do that. We thought we were going to move the ball all over them. And I just think from an emotional standpoint, that's where the game was someone lost, because it was like, okay, well, they didn't in that moment have the resolve to kind of bounce back, rally back, and get themselves up to, because you enter games with the mentality. They entered the game with a mentality of, this isn't going to be a dogfight. This is going to be us, kind of making a statement. It felt like that's what they wanted to do. When that didn't happen, it's really tough with nothing. And again, that part of it too is when you don't have anything going for you offensively, defensively, no bread and butter, no real and there just wasn't that momentum to be had. It just got away from them emotionally, and that's why, again. And then when Elijah goes out, you just toss everything from that, because after that, it just there wasn't the momentum in that for them to come back. Is the best way to put that. I didn't think there was.
Tim, if you were putting together this offense and you've seen what you've seen from them so far this year, you've mentioned this term a couple times, and I've heard it a lot throughout the week. What would your bread and butter be? What would be your go-to to say, hey, this is what I think we can do when nothing else is going right?
I mean, see, like at this point, it's Emmett like touches, like just like he can move the ball. It's like he just needs to get into a flow of the game. But he's shown, I think, regardless of opponent at this point, that there are opportunities for him in the run game, and like whatever that looks like, however you need to manufacture touches for him to get him to move the chain, like, but he is the guy that is the consistent chain mover. And I also think it comes down to like getting back to feeding the playmakers. Like, I think there's part of this where I like, and I appreciate it that Dylan spreads the ball out as much as he does, but the combined touches for Ja'Cory Barney of the last 2 weeks are not acceptable. Like I think Dane Key still is they're working on it, but he's not getting the ball. Like, I think it's just trust your guys that are matchup nightmares and one-on-one matchup winners to win those one-on-one matchups. Like, I think it comes down to that. But at the end of the day, like, if you're looking for a bread and butter, it has to be eminent. If it's not that, like, I'd call it buddy ball, but it's buddy ball. Like, get Dylan to get Dylan easy touches and easy outlets to the guys that he trusts in space.
Do you think how interesting do you find it, kind of the back and forth where we're really, really quick to say, and maybe it just depends on the narrative we want to, but like, let's just say we zoom out, and we don't really care who starts at quarterback. If you're going to make this a discussion, why do we take Akron and Houston Christian out of Dylan's statistics, but we use that to justify or talk about what we think the second quarterback is capable of when it was in those same two games? You know what I mean?
It really is just like, it's the backup quarterback's most popular guy. Like, when you think you can do something, like okay, well, like, again, hypothetically, it's like, okay, well, the O-line protection isn't there. We need to do this. Maybe do it through quarterbacks. But like, again, on paper, I can understand why people think like, but you're not in the lock. You don't know the conversations that are happening. Like, you don't know how mentally in control of the offense Dylan Raiola. You don't know, like, again, like the dynamics of the locker room, all of that. Like, there are all these different things that go into it. And on top of that, Dylan is the most capable and talented guy in the locker room of leading this team right now. Like, he is the most capable quarterback in that locker room. And it comes down to everyone except, I think TJ accepts his role. I think Trey Taylor knows his role coming in. I think everyone in that room knows and understands his role. I shared this story like last week, but I don't know if y'all saw what Keelan Russell said after Ty Simpson won the job. Like, he went back home to his mom and was like, yeah, he won the job. He should have. Like, if he didn't, I would have had questions about the coaching staff. That's how it should be. And that's how I think TJ Lateef thinks as well. Like, they know who the guy is. And like, any of this noise on the outside isn't getting to them because they know what it is on the inside.
Tim, as you look at Northwestern and see some of the same qualities of that Northwestern team that we maybe saw against Minnesota, desire to run the football at a heavy pace, ability to kind of control clock and limit possessions and things like that. And then probably a better defense than what Minnesota has. How much of what you think is happening in this game is, well, Pritchett will be back, maybe we get Spindler, maybe we get Shavers back, and how much of it is, I think Nebraska is just going to be in a different headspace, or do you think it's going to be different than Minnesota?
I mean, I think they're going to be in a different headspace for one, and two, I do think again, like with the Indiana, like I tossed that Indiana game out just because I felt like it was a bit of an aberration game. Like I think this team is going to get back to offensively specifically. I think they are going to get back to some of the stuff that worked. I think there is going to be a more. I think that the game plan is going to be a little more dialed in offensively, and I think defensively, like yeah, like the assumption is Shavers is back, but I think these guys in general recognize the sense of urgency, and I kind of trust the bond that Butler has with his guys and the relationship he has. And the fact, like, I think, like, again, this is personal, and we'll see how it looks on Saturday. I think Butler is capable of challenging his guys and holding those guys to a very high standard, and those guys responding. Like, I think there's that trust there. I think that's established, and I think those guys will fall in line and will do what they can to perform to Butler's expectations. And I think there's going, like I said, going to be a tighter leash as well. And again, on paper, if Nebraska plays the offense the way they have the majority of the time they have this year, they should still have the ability to create some separation in this game and play a little comfortably maybe in the second half. They've not played that way recently. They've not made it comfortable for themselves. They've not allowed themselves to kind of create that separation and build on that separation. But that's what I'm looking for on Saturday is play like the offense you've shown you can be, and then defensively, like again, like you have the better Jimmys and the Joes, like prove it again. Like they have a run game. You know what they're going to do with you. You know exactly who they're going to in the pass game. You know how they're going to attack you. This isn't an offense that like Cincinnati where you don't really know what to expect based on offseason additions or like there are the excuses here are you still haven't figured out how to defend the run and you still haven't figured out certain things. That's the excuse going into it. So if you take that out of it, who are you? Like who are you? Like I think this is a good test to just figure out who this team is.
Yeah, this is weird because I'm kind of warped and a little demented. But I actually like the early start time. I like the narrative that we've kind of made. We're certain, at least in the media and the fan base, we're certainly not sleeping on Northwestern. We've created this thing with Northwestern, whether it's because they always play in it, whatever it is, like we think this team's pretty good for whatever the reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think there's some people that look at the record and they're like, oh, I didn't expect that. Like I didn't expect I didn't expect to see 5-2 walking in.
So let's operate under that assumption. So I think they get Nebraska's attention. Nebraska's coming off the way that they played a week ago. If it was me, like you want that game early. I don't think it'll be sleepy. I think the fan base will respond because I think they're pissy. Like if I'm a player,
yeah.
I played on Friday. Like I've had to listen to this forever.
You're ready to go.
Like the minute we get a chance to play this thing, I want to play it. I love the 11. Outside of when I have to start my day, I love the 11 o'clock kick for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like again, I don't really have a whole lot of concerns about this team's ability to respond, just because I like Saturday or Friday was like a little stunning for me, just because I didn't think this team was still capable of that. Like I didn't think this team was capable of a falling out type of performance anymore. But I like the way they've responded, the way like it's a reminder, like again, like what I know about this team and what I believe about this team is this is a strong team that is responding, that was as frustrated as everybody watching on Friday, was as frustrated being in that moment and knowing they like not knowing, but like trying to find answers and not really having any. And the response after has been exactly what I expected. Like this is a team that I think is going to rally, that's going to bounce back. They know Friday's not acceptable. In years past, it may have just been a thing where it's like, okay, that this there's excuses for this, there's that. There was no excuses. No one. Like I'm the one that's bringing up that Pritchett and Spindler were out. Dylan didn't do that. The offensive guys weren't like, well, you lost two starting offensive tackles. Like, well, offensive linemen, what are we supposed to do? Like they didn't say that. They were like, well, we didn't play well enough. 6 points is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Tim,
now you got me doing
it. Changing gears real quick. I rub off on him in a positive way. Obviously. Tim, what do we have coming up in terms of recruits coming in? I know with the 11 o'clock kick, it can make it challenging, but it sounds like they're still trying to get some visitors in this weekend.
Yeah, super interesting that it's a lot more national guys than I expected. And in 26, you've got an official visitor, Damon Lewis, younger brother of Panthers guard Damian Lewis, edge rusher, out of Charlotte, that's visiting and making his official visit. He's got this visit on the books, then Florida State next week. We'll see kind of how this weekend goes, especially with Florida State kind of playing the way they are, the hot seat kind of getting warmer for Mike Norvell. I don't know if he makes it back. And on that note, they're also bringing the Tadarius Hughes in, four-star safety out of Miami Northwestern that's committed to Florida State. Miami's been working there, trying to flip him away. He's been to Miami, like stayed at Miami and gone to Hard Rock Stadium a few times this year. Syracuse still in the mix a little bit too. Florida State, again, still in the mix. This is turning into an Addison Williams and Evan Cooper head-to-head battle, which is fun for people around here. Nebraska loves him. He's at the very top of their safety board. Big playmaker at 6'3", 180 pounds. Athletic in coverage, but come down and thump as well. And Nebraska would love they see him as like an early type contributor. Same with Danny Odom, of course, who's back in town this weekend. In 27, it's a really good opportunity for DeKeel Shores and the receivers. Quentin
Hale and Taylor.
Yeah, Hale, number 6 receiver in the country out of Los Angeles Cathedral. Like USC is the early favorite there, and that's one that I would be surprised if USC lets him leave LA. But Nebraska's going to get a shot this weekend. Khalil Taylor's the guy I would keep a look at. Nebraska was a second offer for him after Penn State, but he made that early Penn State commitment. Hadn't really made any other visits elsewhere. Backed off the commitment, now making visits. Nebraska's done well there. They've got a couple, obviously, relationships to the area and have been in this recruitment since 2023. So that's one I'd keep an eye on. Trey Taylor is going to be working on him this weekend too. And then the one I would keep an eye on at the receiver position that's not super highly ranked, Justin Lindsay's back in town. Unranked technically, receiver out of Lee Summit North. He camped in June at like right around 6'2", but I love the way he moves. He's a really good route runner. Does a good job creating separation in and out of his routes. There's just a lot of like mastery of the route running there. Trey really liked him, throwing to him. This is going to be his third visit since landing that offer, and his second game day visit. Like that just has a chance to move pretty quick for Nebraska. Lee Summit North, obviously the connections are there, and he's a guy that I think was in the midst of a bit of a breakout junior season, has some touchdowns, getting more production on the field, and Nebraska may be in wait and see mode just because they have such a loaded 27 big board. But he's the kind of guy I could see they take somewhat off the radar that has no stars, and people would be surprised that he ends up signing with Nebraska.
All right, we're not surprised that with Nebraska's connection to Murfreesboro, right? With a Waifu, and it seems to be kind of a little quiet place that they have really good relationships.
They're establishing themselves. I noted it in my show.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's weird. It's like because what's weird about it is too. It's like no one tries in Tennessee outside of like guys try spot recruiting, but Nebraska's really tried to like establish a presence there. This is one this week in Princeton, but like one that like people I think the ship has sailed just because of the season they've had and the way it's gone. But Nebraska really tried late for Chasten Smith, 4-star cornerback who's headed to Notre Dame. He's from a similar area. They got him on campus quietly last year, really opened his eyes. And if he didn't make that early Notre Dame commitment, I think Nebraska would have had a seat at the table and been a real contender there. But just the way that recruitment got away from them. But that's been interesting. I've been trying to like figure out there's a couple of relationships there that have helped Nebraska, but there's something there's for whatever reason people in Tennessee are really receptive to Nebraska.
That's our guy Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska. Tim, appreciate the time as always. Hopefully we enjoy the game a little bit more this week.
Yes, of course. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, TV.
That's TV from Inside Nebraska. Great stuff there as always.